Hello, I'm Josh, and in this video, we're making a phone holder for a tripod. Okay, so right here I got the wood I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using these two pieces because it's not going to take a lot of wood. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the two back pieces, one at 3.5 inches long and one at 3/4 inches long. So, let's measure that out. Okay, I have it measured out. Now we'll be cutting the one back piece on my miter box. I would be using my miter saw, but I don't feel comfortable with such a thin piece, which is 3/4 inches by 3/4 inches. By the way, this is a saw I made myself from a Sawzall blade. Okay, so I got the piece cut. Not the best cut, but it doesn't quite matter. Now, let's measure for the next piece. Okay, so now since we got that back cut, I set up a light because I realized it was getting dark. And now let's cut the 3/4 inch back piece. Okay, now that's done. You got these two pieces now. So now let's cut the two side pieces. One at 1.5 inches long and one at 3/4 inches long. Now I have it measured out. The way I will be assembling this phone holder for my tripod is this piece is going to be on top of here like this, and then I will have a piece right here, like going this way, but much smaller, that is going to have a groove in it to hold the bottom of my phone. Same goes for the side piece I'm going to make here. It's going to have a little groove in it so that it holds side of my phone. And I will be drilling a hole right here and on another piece that will be this long but also have a groove in it that will have a screw going through it into here so I can just screw it on to hold my phone. And this whole contraption will be put onto a piece of the tripod so that I can move my phone around as I'm filming. I have my piece measured out for one of the side pieces, the longer side pieces, and I'm going to be measuring again to make that groove that I was talking about at the start of the video. Now that I got my piece measured out, I will be making a groove right here with my Dremel with a sanding drum on it. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Has a nice divot in it. Now, let's go cut this out. Okay, now that I got the groove cut for the bigger one, I will be cutting this at this line with my miter box. Got this cut out, I will be making the 3/4 inch piece and making a whole groove all along it instead of just one side of it like this one. Now that I have this measured out, let's go back to the Dremel and make the groove with the drum sander. Okay, so now that we got this measured out, let's start cutting in the groove. Do you look? Got my thumb a little bit with the sander. I'm glad it didn't actually hit my skin because I've done that before, and it really hurts, especially if it's deep enough to start bleeding. So be very careful, even if you are sanding. Okay, now that we got this groove made, we could go cut it off at the miter box. So let's go do that. Okay, let's cut this off. Okay, I realized I couldn't clamp this up because this miter box is very awkward. So I'm going to be very careful, and I'm going to cut kind of slow. Okay, so now that we got this cut out, now we just set it over here towards the parts, and we still have to measure out for the bottom. So let's measure that piece out. Okay, now that we got this measured out, we can cut in the grooves. Okay, so now that we got the groove sanded out, I will take this back to the miter saw and cut it right at this line as carefully as I can, because again, this is a really small piece and I could really hurt myself on my blade. Okay, so I cut off this piece on my miter box as carefully as I can, but I forgot to shoot it because when I moved my tripod, I forgot to turn the camera back on. That's okay, it wasn't really important. But our next step now is to make an X here and an X up here so that we have references to where we need to drill the hole for this screw so that we can clamp down our phone into it. Okay, now that we got the X's made, we'll be drilling a hole for the decking screw that will be used to clamp down my phone. Okay, now let's start drilling the holes for the screw. Got that hole done. Now this one, you have to be very careful with. It's very dangerous. That should be deep enough. Okay? Now it's time to assemble parts of this. First thing I'll be doing is I'll taking the side piece and I will be connecting it like this onto here with some wood glue and some screws. And doing this end grain, first I will put some glue onto here. I will smush it into the pores like how Steve Ramsey said in one of his videos. And then I'll let it dry. And then I'll put more glue, clamp it on here, drill a hole, and put a screw in. Okay, so you looked at that, it absorbed most to all the glue. I could probably put more on there, but I think that'll be enough. Now they give this adequate time to dry. I will be putting more glue onto it, and I will be putting it on here, and I will drill a small hole. Now, something I like doing is I like taking my drill and drilling the screw through. Where just the tip is barely poking out, just so I can line up the hole best. And once it's on there, because it's such a tiny piece, I'm going to be ready to use clamps. I'm going to clamp the sides, just so it doesn't start spinning around while I'm screwing it on. You might want to pull the screw out again and put it back in, because sometimes the screw will just push the wood out. Okay, seems like it's on there pretty nice. Now I don't want to split the wood, so I'm leaving a little bit of a hang off for the screw. But this is on there pretty well. So now that we got this piece on here, we'll be putting the back piece on. But this one, we won't actually be screwing. We are only gluing, because if I try to put a screw through here, then I wouldn't be able to attach it to my tripod. Okay, let's do it. So now, I got this lined up where I want it, and I'm going to just roughly mark where I want it to be, just so I know with the gluing. Now again, I will be putting glue on top of this, and I will be smushing it in to the pores. And I want to get as much into this one as I can, because this is a very critical piece for right now. Okay, so I waited a little bit for this to dry. So now I'll be putting more glue on here, and I'm going to be clamping it onto here. But first, spread it around. So now I got this all clamped up, I'm going to put a clamp like this, just so I don't have any bowing in the joint. Now, I'm going to wait for that to dry. Okay, so now I gave this proper time to cure overnight, and it's hard as a rock. So now, it is time to put on the bottom, which we'll be putting glue on and smushing the glue into the pores. Let it cure for a while. Putting more glue on, putting it on right here. We'll be drilling a hole, putting a screw through. So, let's put some glue in it. Oh, I should not have left this open. Now, thought you might think that you really didn't need to wait overnight for this to cure. Well, I really did, because I live in Illinois, and as you know right now it's very cold. And when it's really cold, it takes a while for glue to cure, and obviously I should have brought it inside, but I didn't. So that's why I waited overnight. Okay, that seems to be good enough. Now it's just time to wait. Okay, so I gave this about 10 minutes to dry, and it's all dry. So now let's put more glue on. Spread it around evenly. We'll need more. This is not enough. I mean, you don't really need a lot of glue on this since I'm putting a screw in it, but glue makes it even stronger, and that really makes me more comfortable holding my phone. And if you're wondering why I squeeze this down because some of the glue will hold it better as I'm drilling it, so I won't have to, so it's easier not to mess it up as I'm drilling. It holds on pretty well when doing that. But now I'm going to clamp the side so it doesn't turn on me while I drill. It's just a safety precaution that you should all take. Okay, so now the hole is drilled. Let's grab one of these screws and drill it in. And be very careful with this, because this is thin wood, so it'll be easily split. Ah! Dang. Okay. See? I wasn't too careful and I split it. Which isn't a big deal, but it's a pretty big deal to me. So I'm going to take this screw out. And I'm thinking I'll just use this screw, because it wasn't such a bad split, it was pretty clean. So I think just putting a little bit of glue right here will hold it together pretty well. Because if you ever use like Titebond or Gorilla Glue kind of gets on there like more of like a plastic. You ever like coated something with it? So it holds the wood pretty well together if there's ever a split. Just a good tip to remember. Especially with thin wood like this, it doesn't really matter much, but it's a good thing. So now spread the glue around more, get it in the crack good enough. It's just a good fix, and this isn't supposed to be pretty, it's really not, and that's how I believe shop projects are. Like, you don't have to make them pretty. Save the good wood for the good projects. Okay, so now that is done. I'm going to start putting this screw into here, since it won't really interfere with this. I can take this clamp off, and good thing is, I didn't split this piece. Last time I made this, my prototype, I split this piece, as well as this back piece. But, because obviously you're watching, it's holding on pretty well. And it was kind of dumb of me to use it, but I needed a tripod piece, which is why I'm making this new one for the video. Okay, so now we got our deck screw, got an adequate hole for it, but again, this one has this. I wasn't able to find a piece screw long enough with a flat head, because generally flathead screws like that, they don't split because they don't dig into the wood with this like wedge looking piece. So just be careful about that. And some of you might be thinking, why aren't you drilling this why aren't you screwing this in all together? Well, it's because I want to get this piece right where there is no threads, so it'll be easier to screw in, like, slower into this piece. Because this piece I'm worried about. I'm not really worried about this piece splitting. So this all lined up. I'm gonna set this down. I was thinking it'd be best to keep it up so I don't drill into my workbench, but obviously not. Okay, it's poking through. So since this is such a small piece, it's gonna be hard for me to grab this with my hand. So I'm gonna put it on a clamp as I'm drilling this, and just hold on to the clamp. Okay, now as you can see, this part is on the little screw, the no threaded part, but again, it's held on there pretty well, because I used an adequate sized drill bit. So now, it's time to put it onto this. Okay. Now, I'm thinking I'll put it on here, I'll hold it, and I'll slowly drill it in. Okay, now that I got this in there pretty well, obviously this can pivot, but fairly hard. Okay, so that's basically it, but I'm going to let this cure, then I'm going to mount it onto my tripod, and I'll show you guys a good view through this new one instead of the old one. Okay. Okay, so these are the two compared side to side. This is the new one I made. This is my prototype. As you can tell, my prototype's very, like, it's loose. The joint right here is horrible because I mounted this piece first onto my tripod piece. Then I mounted this part on it thinking it would go on straight, but it didn't. This one also split, but I put glue on it, like how I did with this one. But this one is a lot better, and I shot this video a lot better because one, I had my prototype holding my phone so you can see what's going on, and this one just came out a lot better because I actually glued this part first. I used the right size drill bit for these holes, and these holes. I wish I didn't use I wish I just didn't use these screws. I wish I would use these screws. Okay, now in my next clip I will be showing you a view with my phone mounted in the new one. Okay, so I got my phone mounted on the tripod piece, and it's pretty good on.